Hi everyone and welcome back to the fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel with me, Tom Campbell, for another elite team reveal. We've got Craig from Copenhagen back on the show as we look ahead to double game week 36. We've got timestamps on the video if you want to hop around, but without further ado, let's get right into it. Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. And Craig, welcome back to the show, man. It's been several game weeks since I've had the pleasure of talking to you. So how's this season been playing out for you, mate?
It's been shit, Tom. I think is the simple answer. It hasn't been going anywhere near as well as I planned.
Okay.
Great optimism when the game week starts, and then this week being another example, it just goes downhill all through the game. So it's one of those years.
It is, mate. I'm looking at the screen at the moment. So your overall rank, and the game week is just about concluding. It hasn't actually finished yet. We've got an absolute titanic relegation game underway at the moment. I can't see that impacting our overall ranks too much. But we can see you're right around the sort of 160k mark, Craig, and all chips having been played. You and I were talking off camera beforehand about double game weeks. We're obviously going ahead to double game week 36 and another one to come in 37. Broad brush, how have they been for you so far, mate? And what's your optimism levels looking like as we look ahead to the next two?
They haven't treated me very kindly, and you can always blame bad luck and the rest of it. But I think I have some skin in the game. I don't think all my decision making has been always perfect, and my optimism levels are remarkably low. Yeah. I mean, as you just mentioned, we're talking if half an hour after the Brighton game is finished.
That's
and
right.
I and millions of FPL managers just sitting here going, what the actual...
Just scratching our heads, right? It's crazy, isn't it? Everyone loading up with Brighton assets. You and I were planning on doing a video about them, and they go and get thrashed at home to Everton. I mean,
and injured. Yeah.
What can you do, eh? All the predictive modelling in the world, which you can see over at fantasyfootballfix.com, can only take you so far, especially when there's a relegation on the line and a Dominic Calvert-Lewin back in the starting lineup. But yeah, goodness me, it's been tough going. Craig, look, I can see you having a sip of your drink there. Let's compound that misery by taking a look at Game Week 35 and seeing how the team that you put out performed.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we just mentioned the Brighton boys. I'm seeing a lot of blue and white on this screen. Craig, not many points coming from those three, which is kind of remarkable. Before this game week, I would have been thinking that they would have been avenue to lots and lots and lots of points, but it hasn't played out. So looking at this team, Craig, and the fact that you and I haven't talked for a while, going into game week 35, were you feeling pretty comfortable with how you were set up in relation to this squad, trying not to look at results based in terms of how it's gone, but were there any things that you weren't particularly happy with at this stage, or were you set fair for game week 35?
I was pretty happy with the team. It's just the points ranked which have been remarkably disappointing week after week, and players who I just who have banked on and navigated my way toward. So it's never been one move, it's been a series of moves which led me, for example, to get, so I think last time we spoke it was around 29 or 30. Yeah, so I got Salah on Salah. Mm-hmm. He didn't do a goddamn thing until around 32. So that was just points out the window. Bruno, a couple of good games, points wise, statistics wise, has been fantastic. Amazing. Even when he was playing. But it just hasn't paid off. And United themselves, and you'll know this as a West Ham fan, have just been getting worse and worse and worse.
No kidding.
So you do this, as most of us do, we plan ahead, maybe too far ahead. And the best laid plans of mice and men and the rest of it, it just doesn't. What seems like a good idea 5 game weeks ago suddenly turns to be an absolute crock of shit right now, because I'm full of Brighton who have a good night. We have Newcastle who can't keep a clean sheet to save their lives. Right. The same goes for Everton in goal, my nemesis. They can have the lowest XGC forever, but they'll still give away some stupid goals. So it's things which seem like a remarkably good idea just turn out to be time after time not entirely optimal, to put it in this language. So it's but heading into this week, I had a free transfer and I moved McAllister to Matoma.
Yeah,
because I think we all know Veltman's injured, so they're struggling at right back, which means McAllister drops into the defensive
He does.
midfield
He does,
position.
yeah.
Yet he has penalties, but all his other numbers were just dropping off a cliff as soon as he moved back compared to his role as the 10. A move to Matoma seemed like a decent idea, given the fact that this week we're doubled in 36 and we're doubled in 37. That's 5 games. He's easily going to pay back a transfer. Yes. The mindset was he's easily going to pay back the transfer between now and 37. But no. I don't see that happening right now. So a whole lot of things which seem remarkably good ideas in my own mind, which have turned into less than great.
Oh man, I think you're being harsh on yourself. I mean, the ideas are absolutely rock solid, aren't they? This is the element of trying to predict the future. It's kind of difficult, you know. I do look at Trent Alexander-Arnold sitting in the back line, though, Craig. Don't know if you managed to catch the Liverpool game, but seeing him operate in that midfield, I think longer term for us FPL managers looking ahead to next season, and of course at the end of this season as well. Goodness me, looks pretty attractive proposition. Whether or not they'll continue to class him as a defender will be an interesting one to see next season. The Man United game, I mean, West Ham fan, so obviously delighted. It should make sure that West Ham retain their Premier League status. We can all hope, but very, very sort of unfortunate how that goal was conceded. Luke Shaw's been immense at centre back, right? He's been a top pick there, and like you say, Bruno Fernandes from a stats perspective has been terrific as well. Marcus Rashford has had an incredible season, albeit not so much lately, I would say. How do you see...
one goal in...
Sorry, say again, one goal?
He's only scored 1 goal in 2 months now, I think it is. So it's starting to dry out.
It really is. And it sort of leads me to my question, Craig. So Man United down the stretch, obviously a lot to play for them as they're kind of managing to make a bit of a fist of this top 4 qualification somehow, having seen sort of nailed on for it. They were allegedly in a title race for a period there, weren't they? How do you see Man United as FPL assets for the remainder of this season? What's your advice there to the viewers?
Well, I'll have to work it out myself before I advise, but I'm really twitchy. I mean, I'm relaxed about Shaw. Insofar as, okay, they had a bad day at the office against West Ham. The game before against Brighton, he was on for 8 points.
Man, he played so well in that game. Yeah,
in the 6th minute of time, and gave away the penalty, got a yellow card. But for 97 minutes of the game, he was on for 8 points. Fine, I'll quite happily have 8 points. I'm not moving him anywhere. Bruno, he seems to move further and further to the wing as the game goes on. I don't quite understand the tactics of Ten Hag, to be completely honest. Rashford, I think all of us have to sit down tonight or the next day and work out what to do when we know what's happened to March. For those of us who don't have a third Brighton or Newcastle player ahead of 36, we need to work out the routes available. But I would sell Rashford in a shot.
Okay, interesting. Right. Yeah, and I think a lot of people will be wondering that, like you say, 1 goal in 2 months isn't going to be, be particularly encouraging to managers at this stage.
Yeah, but I just seem to have so many. I feel it's almost suddenly fires to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, March came on at halftime, got injured after 20 minutes, didn't do a thing, but he still outscored a stupid.
That's true. Yeah.
So it feels like I have quite a few things to deal with. And you mentioned Trent. I was really happy with the Trent move, but at the same time, I just do not see them keeping a clean sheet between now and sometime in 25. So but at the same time, I mean, he's by far the most. If you think of him as a midfielder. Yeah. He's still the most creative player on the pitch, or in the game, for the last 4 or 5 anyway. So he has that attraction, but he's just not getting the clean sheet points. So
it's fair enough, mate. I mean, it's just the way seeing him operate definitively in that midfield berth. I agree. The likelihood of actually accruing those clean sheet points feels pretty slim right now, with just the way that how brittle Liverpool have been over the course of the season. Don't disagree at all, but him actually now having less to do with that, I guess, in terms of where he's playing is going to play into his advantage from an attacking perspective within FPL. I mean, going back to the United one, it does seem curious that Ten Hag seems ever willing to shoehorn Weghorst into his team, and this sort of means that, like you say, Bruno Fernandes then ends up operating wider and wider, or potentially deeper and deeper. It also means that Rashford sometimes plays through the middle as Weghorst plays as a 10. And you and I think have talked previously about the effectiveness of Rashford off the left being preferable. So it does feel like if they just find a solution that doesn't involve Weghorst playing, then actually those United assets could attacking wise could still come back to the fore.
I don't disagree, but it's one of those, if your auntie had,
we know the saying. Right now we know that Rashford, they're not getting any points.
The thing is, Tom, I'm tired of waiting.
Yeah. Well, there's not long to wait now, is there? That's a good point.
There are 3 or 4 game weeks left, and it's just like, come on, time's up.
Time's up.
We can't all say time's up and start taking 24-point hits. No. Of course, that doesn't work like that. But he's entirely dispensable for me.
Okay.
Bruno a little bit, but Rashford, if he is the key to me getting A, news from De Zerbi about what's going on with March, and B, getting a route through to 36, 37, then fine, he's gone. We were, as you were saying, we were talking off camera, and Arsenal assets who we've all ditched, or at least anybody who looks further than the length of their nose has ditched, massively outperforming all these players we brought in. And I'm just really, really tempted just to say these doubles are just more hassle than they're worth.
Right. And that's the elephant in the room, right, Craig? I mean, we as FPL managers who are engaged in this game and looking forward and using all the tools that we have on Fix and what have you, do tend to gravitate to these double game weeks and sort of fixate on them. I include myself in that wholeheartedly, but goodness me, it's been difficult, hasn't it, to navigate them effectively and actually pick up the points that we would have wanted to. And like you say, the Arsenal boys, Callum did a video recently saying just that. Are they actually being overlooked as FPL assets down the stretch? I think the answer is probably yes, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I have, as you know, I already had a few ideas about where I was going, and
I'm going to come on to that.
One of them we'll come to, but I mean, I have other Post-it notes lying around which have the return of Saka, the return of Bruce, and the return of Martinelli before 38.
Yeah. Well, looking ahead, Craig, I mean, we to frame the rest of the video for the guys, we're going to take a look in a moment about some thoughts that you have around how you're going to set up your team for double game week 36. Obviously, the game week 35 is still just coming to an end as we're recording this video, and there's some unknowns around the fitness of some of your players, so some of it will be caveated. Also got some thoughts from Craig on how he might set his team up for double game week 37, and there's a little thought as well about the final game week of the season as well, and somebody who might be being overlooked. So let's get into taking a look at how Craig's thinking broad brush about double game week 36. So guys, you can see on screen at the moment here we're talking about potentially a double move taking place. Now, when we were prepping the content for this video, there was all sorts of stuff being talked over with Craig in relation to potentially rolling a transfer and various other names. But this is a strategy you're thinking about, right, Craig? Now, obviously, when we did this, we didn't know that Solly March might have picked up an injury as well. But talk to us about the Trippier and Solanke moves that we're looking at on screen at the moment, and what sort of prompted those.
Okay, let's start with the easy one. The Trippier is just born from the ongoing frustration, and that frustration applies not to Trippier. But he's had 10, 11 games of half-decent numbers. It seems to have changed a bit since Almiron has changed his role, or doesn't have the same role in the team a little bit. But at the same time, it's that. But half-decent numbers, not the best numbers, but good numbers, but just never a return. Neither an attacking, very, very rarely attacking return, and they just keep wetting the bed in defence. It's a little like City, and I say that as an Edison owner for the second time this season. It's just like you can have the greatest numbers, but if you just lose concentration, give the ball away, make a mistake, boom, there goes the clean sheet, and there goes the points, and there goes even now the bonus. I mean, he used to be in the first half of the season, just picking up bonus from just showing up. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, and it's all gone. So I was looking at, and of course, I have a rank which I'm not hugely elated about. So it's like, where can I make a difference? And the difference was, well, I don't think many are going into 36 with Isaac and Wilson.
Love it.
So Trippier was the cash cow, and of course, there's the risk that he, it all clicks, and they have 2 clean sheets. He gets an assist and 5 bonus points, and then I'm the idiot again for the 10th time this year. But I think risk worth taking. The question mark, and I should say, going back to your previous comment, I had 2. I think, like many people, I have 2 Newcastle defenders and a Brighton defender. Now, under what circumstances would you play, or would you drop one of those in 36, or not play the big guns in midfield and attack? You wouldn't.
It wouldn't happen, would it? No, you
But
wouldn't.
when you have Trent on the bench, who's still low owned and is in good form, and the rest of it. So this was a way of shoehorning Wilson into it, ditching, which is a risk, and underperforming Trippier, and getting Trent into my starting 11.
I love it. It's so close to the end of the campaign, right, Greg? I got the sense that this is not the sort of move you would be making in game week 4. Obviously, doubles you wouldn't expect to happen there as well. But speaking to some of the other guys in the elite section as well, and making these types of moves all in on the Newcastle attack in a double game week with a handful of game weeks left, feels like this is a justifiable time to say, do you know what? Yes, it could backfire. Like you say, you've painted a perfectly plausible narrative where it could go wrong. It could go belly up. But goodness me, it could go the other way, right? If Newcastle have their shooting boots on, there's still absolutely a lot to play for them. Yeah. And both these guys, they don't often start together. They did this game week, but they both see minutes, don't they, in every game? And when they play, they get points. Yeah,
exactly the mindset I was coming at it with. So, okay. But that was, of course, before Brighton turned into a gibbering wreck, and March
indeed
hobbled off after a little cameo. So I think I maybe have to, I have to wait on what De Zerbi says.
Yeah. So let's paint a scenario then for the viewers. Obviously, we're recording this, before the game week's complete, and there'll be more information coming to light. But let's paint a scenario in which March is out then, Craig, and obviously then this slide becomes invalidated then. But if he's out for a period of time, say ruled out for a couple of weeks, for example, how would you be thinking to react to that? Is there a completely different avenue that you'd go down? Is it a subtle change? Is it a hold? What would you be thinking if Solly March is ruled out for a period of time? What would be the thought process then?
Weeks, assuming you mean game weeks.
A couple of game weeks. Yeah, rule him out of contention for the run in.
Toast. But the problem with the joy of the Brighton assets is that they're so goddamn cheap.
Yeah.
So who can you replace them with? Nobody.
No.
Really? At the same price. So any replacement of March either requires me to go cheap and leave some money to upgrade somebody else in 37 and or 38, or to stick with my Trippier can get in the seat, roof, raise some money there, and upgrade March to. I genuinely haven't had a chance to get on the phone, but Ødegaard would be a welcome addition to my midfield. I wouldn't say no to that.
Last time you and I mentioned his name, Craig.
Decent fixtures.
Yeah, sorry to cut across you, mate. But last time we mentioned Ødegaard together several weeks ago. Goodness me, you were high on him then, and so has it proved since then in terms of just how well he plays and how effective he's been. Obviously, a great price point this season as well. Yeah. So I know how enamoured you are with him as an FPL player and as a player overall. So represents a great pick as well. Just sort of noticing that bench that you put together with this option as well, Craig, sitting Bruno Fernandes in the home game against Wolves and Luke Shaw as well. It's an embarrassment of riches you've established there.
Sure. And probably in hindsight, I would have swapped Rashford and Bruno around there as well.
Yeah,
be Bruno fighting over Rashford, given my current thoughts about Rashford. But it's one of those game weeks where we're blinded by the doubles, and you always look for the upside, and you always hope for if he just gets a clean sheet in the one and an assist in the other, and the rest of it. It's like, but the way it's going.
No, I'm ever optimist. You've got to be an optimist as a West Ham fan, right? You have to be, or else you'd be in perpetual misery if you just lived in reality. So I'm rooting for you, man. I hope that this upside plays out. And if we do get good news on Solly March, and he's he's deemed to be fit and available for double game week 36. Then goodness me, it's a powerful looking setup there, Craig. Any other thoughts you've got for double game week 36 that we haven't talked around that you want to bring in? Not necessarily 100% related to your team, but other thoughts that you've had around that double game week before we talk further down the road?
No, I think it's hard to see past the Newcastle and Brighton have the double and get them both in. Yeah. But looking back, hindsight's wonderful. But I think if you're not stuck with 6 right now, I think there are some interesting opportunities to prioritize 37 over 36, and even look at you've got some nice games in 38 for the last, including something I suspect we'll talk about later. But I haven't seen, as you know, I haven't heard the game. I didn't see the game. I was bouncing on the trampoline with my kids, listening to my phone scream. A goal went in, so I haven't seen the game. I don't know just how bad Brighton were.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that they were terrible offensively. Still threatened throughout the game. I watched the game, Craig, but defensively they were caught on the counter many times throughout the game, and Everton were absolutely clinical and scored some good goals. A couple of fortuitous moments, of course, but it was more sort of incisiveness from Everton. Was my reading of the game. Particularly, Brighton were still, played in the same manner. It wasn't like they were off from that perspective. They were still absolutely playing through the lines and trying to attack, but just didn't necessarily happen for them offensively in that game. And goodness me, they were cut apart defensively. So I did want to get your thought, and not probably something you've thought about, but for owners of Steel, of which there will be many in goal from the Brighton side, do you sort of think, going ahead to a double, the temptation there is, look, it's a Brighton double game week, he's been preferred so far, but shipping that amount of goals in a home game to Everton, is it just overthinking things to say, you know what, I need to move him to somebody else, a more secure doubler? Sorry?
So to move Steel on?
Yeah, if you're worried about him potentially being dropped off the back of that hammering.
I mean, looking at my team, and my team's not particularly far from the template. Yeah. If Steele was my goalkeeper, I think Steele would be the least of my problems.
It's fair.
So I would not be. I mean, to be honest, they aren't great fixtures for Brighton in the double. They're not fantastic. You're not looking at those and saying they scream clean sheets.
No, you're not. No.
Pretty much hoping for some save points and a really, really poxy assist. Yeah. If you're really, really lucky. Yeah. So, no, I wouldn't at all advise moving Steele on. Do you have Steele, Tom?
I'm trying to even remember. I think he is my second goalie as well, because my long-term plan was to bench boost in 37, 36 or 37, because I've sort of misplayed my chips, Craig, if I'm honest. So I have bench boost remaining and had been setting up to use it in double game week 37, and Brighton will have a double game week then. So I guess I'll be in a position where I'll know whether or not he's kept his place after today's resounding defeat. I just found it interesting in terms of managers can often see ghosts, when there isn't one, and actually can overcomplicate things rather than concentrating on things that are more concrete, And I think that would probably be an example of doing that.
I think he's in the team because of how he distributes the ball and how he can allow the defense to be set up. So it sounds like everyone had a really, really, really crap day at the office.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. All right, man. Look, so that's thoughts around double game week 36, Craig. You and I talked beforehand that you've also got some thoughts about double game week 37 as well. So we're not going to be able to get you back on the video for that, but I did want to just see how you're sort of thinking about shaping up for that one. And we can also talk about your plans around a specific player for game week 38. So let's take a look at double game week 37 plans. Alrighty, so it feels a way away, and obviously a lot can happen. We've got Champions League to play out, we've got league fixtures, etc. But looking at this, there's an awful lot of those nasty double game week players, Craig, that we've just been talking around. But you're going to be chock-a-block full of them for this game week, and you're going to have Trent Alexander-Arnold sitting at the back there with a home game against Aston Villa. That's certainly nothing to be worried about, and one of Callum Wilson or Alexander Isak up front to partner Haaland. So how do you get to this position, Craig? And is this looking pretty rock solid? We've talked about Man United as well. What do we think?
Again, it's on the basis of the moves I planned for this week, which are up in the air depending on the March news. Yeah. But I have two routes for 37 and 38. This is one of them. Well, this was one of them. Depending how the Premier League games go, and B, particularly the game against Real Madrid goes, I already have Edison, which was just, awful.
I didn't bring his name up, Craig.
You didn't do it. I've done it for you. It's the second time I've owned him.
It is. Yeah, I smiled when I saw it, but I didn't bring his name up.
So I have Edison, which cock-blocked my third choice of a City player. So I've only got one left.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to go for if I really want to enjoy game week, enjoy the idea of at least game week 37, then I may as well go balls deep. And the only one who I'm really missing for City in 37 is De Bruyne. And the easy route to De Bruyne is quite simple. It's Salah. You've done your job. Thanks, mate. Off you go. In comes Kevin. A double game week. What can possibly go wrong?
No,
it's
yeah, of course.
So that was the one thought. Yeah. But it all depends upon have they got the title sealed. Yeah. Or not? How have they done in the game against? Is everybody fit and available after the games against Madrid and the rest of it? But I would really, really like to stick De Bruyne in there in 37, and it's losing Salah isn't a great idea. I forget who he's playing, but I think it was somebody quite easy.
It's Villa because you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold in for this one for that game. Yeah, so it would be Aston Villa at home versus for De Bruyne would have home match against Chelsea and an away match against Brighton.
Yeah, so that would be a really easy move. The other alternative is if it's a Mahrez or a Grealish or a Gundogan or if and maybe not for Salah in that case. Maybe there's a route there from March if I can somehow navigate that. But I genuinely haven't looked that far. But the other option is just to go to Martinelli or Saka.
Yeah, you mentioned the Arsenal boys.
Yeah, I just say, you know what, these doubles, they're just more ball ache than they're worth. No one's going to get, very few players are going to get 180 minutes. So I'd rather go with the certainty of a Saka or a Martinelli and run with that. And then there's the X factor, which is game week 38.
So we've talked cryptically about this, Craig. So you mentioned this to me beforehand. So game week 38, not a double. We know there's elements of the crazy in game week 38, don't we? In terms of some ludicrous scores we've seen over the years and hard to predict, etc. And teams might be on the beach, might be already down, etc. What have you spotted, mate?
It's quite simple. There are two things. One is I think Leeds are down by game week 38, and I say that as a Sheffield Wednesday fan. They're dog shit. They're going down. That's it. It's over.
You've got no faith in Big Sam.
I've got absolutely no faith whatsoever. He's going to make them run a wee bit more than they did before, but they're going down. Absolutely terrible. Especially because Forest are 3-1 up as we speak. Leeds.
Let's do it. Let's say Leeds. Let's say Leeds are doomed.
Leeds are all over the place. It's probably Harry Kane's last game in a Spurs shirt.
Oh, okay. And who would he be playing? He would be playing Leeds United away.
Leeds.
That's right. Okay.
So I think he's going to absolutely fist Leeds United in the last game.
Okay. I mean, he'd have to go some to catch Erling Haaland in the Golden Boot chart, I would suggest, but he'll probably believe he can still do it.
No chance of that. Yeah. But if that isn't a really canny captain punt for the last game of the season for somebody who's currently at 160k, I don't know what is.
So how would you get there, then, mate? What would the plan be to get him?
There we go. So if I'm going there, I need to be frugal with my transfers going forward in 36 and 37. To put it a different way, I'm not going to bring Kane in before 38.
No.
But I need to have the money for him, or to take a pretty substantial hit in 38, or not substantial, but take out somebody else to go to the game. So. There are ways to it. Saka and Martinelli are ways to it in 37. Ditching Bruno, ditching Trent, ditching Salah. They all have to go at some. Well, they would have to go at some part of it. It's and I think Liverpool have Southampton in the last game, so it's not like it's without risk.
Yeah.
But a captain punt for the last week for somebody who's struggling, that appeals enormously.
Well, I really like it. I hadn't thought about it, and like you say, there's a chance it could be Harry Kane's last league game or last game full stop for Tottenham. For rumours are to be believed, and like you say, Leeds look in dire straits, and you can't imagine that Mr. Allardyce's appointment's going to manage to shore them up without the opportunity to bring anyone in or to do a lot with them beforehand. So that's a really interesting pick. Craig, double game week 37 we're looking at right here. Is there any other thoughts you had around that double game week beyond that which we've already spoken to? Obviously, a lot needs to happen. We've got league games, we've got Champions League, etc. But any other thoughts that you wanted to get off your chest, mate? Because this could very well be the last time you and I speak before the end of the campaign.
Yeah, but there aren't any. I mean, there's our common friend Tom keeps teasing me toward Danny Welbeck, and
okay.
I don't know why he does that, but he does.
Yeah.
But he's not wrong. I mean, he's outscored most of my players for the last 5 weeks. But I think there are a few interesting punts you can go for in 37. And all joking aside, I think Welbeck is not a bad shout. I mean, I've been dying for Ewan Ferguson, or Everton Ferguson, to get to it again, because I thought that would be. I really wanted to shoehorn Ferguson as my third.
Yeah. What a player he looks like. He did come on at half time today, but just coming back from.
I haven't seen the game tonight, but there are goals. There were always goals in a Brighton team under Deserve. So going for somebody who's not one of the obvious midfielders, I think that's an interesting shout for 36 and 37. Welbeck seems to be still. I haven't checked the team, but he doesn't seem like he was injured tonight. So that's
Danny Welbeck. Wow.
He's not going to play 180 minutes, is he? But I think there's he seems to be in great form. That would be an interesting one. I keep seeing mentions of Anthony and Sancho, and I'm just not seeing it. I just don't think there are any options in United right now who are worth going for.
No, it's so frustrating, isn't it? Because they've got this double game week in 37 of Bournemouth and Chelsea respectively that we're looking at on screen at the moment. So you'd want to hit that. They do have the FA Cup final to think about as well, but they just sort of, their form has really started, hasn't they? I think I saw their goal difference is only +8 over the course of the season, which for a team that's currently, ensconced in fourth position is kind of remarkable, really.
It's terrible, and I mean, and you think about what we would think of being a really, really rough season for Liverpool. Liverpool are right behind them.
They're really close, aren't they?
I appreciate the game's difference, but it's the narratives are quite misleading about how well.
I agree.
The numbers have been good for a few players, but it just hasn't translated into a team performance. So it's I don't think there's any. I have no interest. Not even if you give me a free transfer or 2 free transfers, I just wouldn't bring in another. I know I'm smiling as I say this, but I know Mark from the Elite 11. He brought in Marshall. I completely respect the punt, and a week ago or a week or two ago, maybe it seemed like a decent solution, but it's just something not suddenly clicking at that club.
It's one of the most frustrating quandaries with Tony Martial. I've done some analysis on him over the course of his whole tenure in the Prem, and historically, when he's been on the pitch, Craig, he's returned great FPL, points per minute, per 90 per game, etc. But the boy is just so unreliable. And that's been the case throughout his career, hasn't it? So my head went to my hands there when you said about Mark bringing him in. That's not a reflection on the choice. It's just a reflection on the actual player.
Yeah, but my point generally is, I think the way my head is at right now after half a bottle of wine is those double game week assets which you haven't really brought in yet or planned for yet. The only one that I can really think of which are interesting is Wilson for 36 and Welbeck or a fresh Ferguson for 37. Otherwise, I would pivot to the single game weekers and take some form.
I love it, man, and I think that's really succinct advice to end the show on, because there's some salient things people can take away. I think, as I say, Ferguson definitely came on in the second half of the resounding home defeat. So whether or not De Zerbi's going to say, I've seen enough and you're back in the team, because he was looking phenomenal before his injury, wasn't he? He looks like such a prospect. So I really like that shout, and I love the idea of the attacking double up for Newcastle in double game week 36 as well, Craig. So look, mate, it's been awesome to have you back on the show, and also thanks so much for giving up some time throughout the course of the season for us to track how you've done, mate. It's been really cool to see that, and I really hope that you'll stick around and come back on the show next season to see how you tackle another FPL campaign. But any final thoughts, mate?
Nothing other than to say thanks to you, Tom,
Pleasure,
for these last I think it's 5 times this year we had a chat. It began well, it went downhill. So maybe another time it'll be a wee bit different.
Yeah, I'm sure it will, mate. And again, thank you ever so much. And guys, do please get down in the comments down below to let Craig know how you think his double game week 36 and double game week 37 teams are shaping up. And I'm sure to wish him well for the remainder of the season and to thank him for his contributions. And guys, do please subscribe to Fantasy Football Fix as well. Please subscribe to the fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel as well, and smash a like on the video on your way out. And we will see you all next week. Have a very, 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 very good week. Goodbye.